What it do? It's your boy Simon the Speaker, aka your cleaning guide to cleaning business success. Welcome back to the channel. If you are new to the channel, please do not forget to subscribe, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell notification as well. We drop videos every Tuesday and Thursday at 6 p.m. Yes, every Tuesday and Thursday at 6 p.m. If you are a returning user back to this channel, I want to say I appreciate you guys for being here again. Once again, if you're new to the channel or returning users, go back, watch the previous video. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe on any of the videos that you watch. I would appreciate it. But we are going to get straight into this video. Actually, before we get into the video, below in the details of this video, two very important links. The first one is our school community link, where you can learn how to actually start, automate, or scale your remote cleaning business. The second link will be a oh my God. The second link will actually be a one-on-one calendar link, actually, where you can book a one-on-one consultation with me. So definitely book the link if you want to talk about how to start a remote cleaning company. Maybe you're looking to pay off debt, put money in your child's college fund. Maybe you're looking just to simply take your family out to vacation. Get with me and we will get it done. So once again, I want to say thank you everybody for being here, and let's get straight into this video. Come on. Okay. So today I want to talk about something important numbers to track. What are some important numbers to track when you're running a remote cleaning business, right? There are a bunch of different numbers that you can track. It really obviously depends on what you want to track in your business, but there are some numbers that you should be tracking, right? And we're gonna go through them here. Once again, I always say this in my previous video. If you see me look left, right, down off my laptop, my monitors, I got my whole setup here. So with that being said, let's get into the video. Sorry guys. So with that being said, let's get into the video. So the first thing I want to talk about is revenue. This is actually very, very simple. Revenue is the amount of money that you make. We'll talk about profits, right? We'll talk about that a little later. But first you want to start with the revenue, right? And usually you can track this monthly and weekly. It depends on what you want to do and how you want to run your business. Usually it does help to run it weekly, so that by the time you run it monthly, you can just cross check to make sure everything makes sense. So you want to start with the revenue, right? You want to pretty much look at the total revenue. So the total revenue for the week, how much money you made for the week, and how much money you made from the job, for the month. And then what you want to add into there as well is the numbers of jobs completed, right? So let's say you made, let's do a simple math, right? Let's say you did, you made $1,000 for the week and you did 5 bookings. Then you know that your average booking cost may be about $200 a booking, right? And that's just kind of just simple math, so I can break it down easy. But you do want to also be tracking this, because this is going to kind of let you know, okay, like, what is my average ticket price? What is the price? What is my average cleaning price, right? And this will help when you want to scale, right? So let's say you're doing $1,000 a week and you want to get to $2,000 a week, right? So if that's the case, if your average price is about $200 a cleaning, you have 2 ways to go about it. You can obviously do 10 cleanings at $200. 10 cleanings at 200, or you can actually do 5 cleanings at 400, right? And that will get you to that $2,000 mark. But that's the point of being able to track these numbers, so you can actually be able to tell what you're making, what you're charging per cleaning, and if you do want to scale and go up, how would you be able to do that as well? Revenue divided by number of jobs equals the average job value. So once again, I was saying, if you were to make $1,000 and you did 5 jobs, then you would be doing at an average job value of 200. So we know if we're trying to get to 2,000, we would take that 2,000, we would divide it by 5 jobs. It would let you know that you would need to do your booking at $400, right, per booking. Or if you do, if you're looking to get to 2,000, you divide it by, let's double the number to 10 jobs, then we can keep that $200 price. Now, so revenue is very important. It's kind of the basic, one of some of the basic numbers that you want to be tracking. So don't forget that right there. Revenue is it's kind of simple, right? It's just the amount of money that you make. And so now when we get to number 2, we start to look at gross profit. Okay, so I don't have this here, but I do want to talk about something, right? We have gross profit and net profit. Revenue minus cleaner pay equals gross profit. So this is what you run your business on, right? And we're going to go through this. But net profit is actually after you pay out, after you've taken this number and you've paid out the things that it takes to run your business, what are you keeping after that? And that is net profit, because that's usually what you could use to pay yourself, and that's usually what you'll keep as well. So a lot of times people will ask, hey, what is your gross profit versus what is your net profit? And that is the difference between that, right? So let's actually go through this. Number 2 is tracking your gross profit, not just the revenue. You want to be able to track your gross profit. Revenue means nothing without margin. This is very important. If I'm making $1,000 for the week, but I'm paying my cleaners a total of $900, right? That means that I'm only left with 10% gross profit. So the problem becomes, if you're only left with 10% gross profit, how are you running your business off $100, right? And so the point of this is that you want to make sure that there's a good amount of margin there when we're talking about gross profit. If you watch my other videos, my previous videos, I talk about this as well. You should be aiming, or you should be striving for, within a remote cleaning business, at least a 50% gross profit. Now, some people do 45, some people do 55, right? But you want to have it that by the time you pay your cleaners, half of what you made, half of the revenue, and I guess what you made for the week, or we'll go monthly, right? So half of what you made for the month is used to then now help run the business. So with that being said, quick example, let's say that you so let's go to this example, right? Because it'll be easier kind of just to do that. So revenue minus cleaner pay equal gross profit. So let's say you made $10,000 in revenue, you paid the cleaners $6,000, then you have a gross profit of $4,000 left. So technically, your gross profit would be 40%. Your gross profit would be 40%. Now, let's say it was $10,000 revenue, but you paid $5,000 to the cleaners, then your gross profit would obviously be $5,000, and that's half, which is 50%. So that is what you're gonna run your business on, right? And that includes payroll to yourself, payroll to yourself, operating expenses, saving taxes, and we'll talk about that as well. The different accounts that you should have. I always say this all the time, that like a lot of my previous videos stack upon one another. And the reason I say that is because if you watch my previous videos, the content of my previous videos will then help you understand this. Because if you watch my previous videos, we talk about distributions. And distributions will technically go based off of, it depends how you want to do it. Usually people do it based off of revenue, right? But you could even do it based off of gross profit, right? You could do your distribution based off of gross profit. It really just depends on how you want to do it. But nonetheless, that is why these things are important. And so going back to that example that I was talking about, imagine making $10,000, paying your cleaner $9,000, you only gross profit $1,000. There's not, and mind you, that gross profit is still going to be used to pay cleaners. You're not gonna have nothing left. You won't have too much to be able. You may have enough to take care of things, but depending on if you're doing marketing, and that's a whole nother thing that we're talking about, and we'll talk about that over here. But depending on if you're running marketing, or you're running any type of ad spend, that makes a difference. But this is where reoccurring comes in. This is where the whole reoccurring model of the cleaning business comes in. Imagine if you're running the cleaning business, you're not running any ad spend, very low overhead. Remember, we're doing a remote cleaning business model. You make $10,000, you pay $6,000, and your gross profit is $4,000. Imagine only having a five. I'll even go up. Imagine only having a $500 overhead cost. So with that being said, your then net profit would be $3,500, and now that's the money you could technically, depending on how you want to pay yourself, like, and depending on how you do it, like you could pay yourself that, right? Or let's even say your gross profit is $4,000. Let's say that it costs you $500 to, let's say $500 to what was I saying? Run the business. Let's say you split, another $500 for taxes, savings, whatever you want to do. Now you have, at that point you have $3,000 left. Or let's say you want to go higher, you have $2,500 left. At that point, depending on how you want to do it, and that's how you can now start paying yourself $2,500, $3,000. I have a student that's doing $20,000 in revenue, reoccurring, no marketing. So he keeps about 50% of that. And so now you can see, okay, that means 10,000, probably, let's say, spend about $1,000 in expenses. We're talking about $9,000 left. Even if he wants to pay himself just a 60 or 72K salary, he can pay himself $5,000 to $6,000 and still have $3,000 left that he can put in savings, taxes, whatever. Right? And so that's why this is very important. I know I've been talking about this more than longer. I talked about this, but the reason that this is important, because gross profit and net profit is going to be, it's what you run your business on, and what you're inherently going to be able to pay yourself on. So this is very important. I'm not saying don't track this, but this means nothing without this, right? Yeah, you can make $10,000, but if you're paying your cleaners $9,000, $9,500, you only have $1,000 or $500 to work with. What does it matter, right? So, and then cost per lead. So if you're running some ad spend, right? Let's say you're actually doing advertisement, right? So this is very important. The reason I say this is very important because let's do some quick math before we go into this, right? So let's say you make $10,000, you pay the cleaners $6,000, and your gross profit is $4,000. But let's say I'm not going to go off this number, but let's say you spent 4,500 on marketing, right? So if that's the case, remember this is what we're going to be using to pay our business or to help our business run, or this is what we're using to run our business. Now you're in the whole $500, not including your expenses. So tracking your cost per lead on whatever marketing platform you're doing is important because you need to make sure it is something. It is what we like to call profitable, right? So what I mean by profitable is this: if you spend, and I'm not gonna go through this yet. I just want to go through this example. But if you spent $2,000 on marketing, 2,000, let's say, brought you 10,000, or we're just going with some false numbers. Let's say 2,000 brought you 10,000, and then you paid 6,000. Actually, let's say 2,000 brought you, let's say 5,000. You had 5,000 reoccurring, right? We'll just play some numbers, right? So let's say after that you paid 6,000, you have 4,000 left. Now at that point you have enough to obviously pay the 2,000 to your ad spend on your marketing, and then you'll have 2,000 left. So we can say, okay, that is profitable, right? Let's say it's profitable. Now that can get tricky, especially because reoccurring clients do obviously alter the books, right? Because let's say without reoccurring, you spent 2,000, you got back 5,000, but you paid your cleaners 3,500, which means you only have 1,500 left without reoccurring, which means it wouldn't have been profitable. Now I am going to make a video about reoccurring clients and how reoccurring clients, the profit, you don't see the profit immediately with reoccurring clients, but you can pretty much take the lifetime value, LTV. So if a client is going to stay with you for on average 6 to 8 months, and this is how much profit that it's going to be per month, you can technically take that and say, okay, this is the profit and apply it to the month. Obviously, you can't just apply it to your books because they'll mess up the books, but you can say, you know what, if I were to take the profit from 6 to 8 months from getting this reoccurring client, then technically we are in the green. That's going to be a whole separate video. It's a little bit more complex, but something a little different. But yes, so you want to track your ad spend because you want to make sure, like, okay, it is profitable. If I spend 2,000 and 2,000 makes me 6,000, but 6,000 out of 6,000, I was able to pay my cleaners 3,000 and I have 3,000 left, then I can technically still take that 3,000. I can take 2,000 from that 3,000, pay back the marketing, and then I have $1,000 left over for net profit or what I can keep or whatever. And so with that being said, then you can say, okay, this is profitable. The ad spend that I am using to bring in clients is making me profit. So you want to track the cost per lead. This is critical for growth. If you spend 500 on ads, you get 25 leads. And this is important because you need to break this down right. And this is why I have this here. Let's say the cost per lead was $20 because you got 25 leads. This is not what we're mainly focusing on. This is what's important. The clients that we're booking. So if we get $500 on ads, yes, we get to look at the cost per lead. It's about $20. But I don't want to focus on this. I want to focus on this. How many people booked? How many of these people booked? That's when I can determine the true cost per lead, right? We call it a cost per book job, right? So you know that for every book job you're gonna have to. So let's say you have a $500 monthly budget. You know that for every book job, you're more than likely going to be spending $50 in marketing to get a book job, right? And so then at that point, going back to scaling, you can understand that because now I know if for $500 I'm going to get me, let's say 10 clients because it's going to cost me $50 per job book, then I know that $1,000 is going to get me 20 clients because it's already about $50 per job booked, right? And so you want to be able to track this stuff because this pretty much allows you to help navigate this, right? So once we know what our costs, and it all ties in together, right? It all ties in together because look, at this point, if I know that, sorry guys, my feet itching. Whew. It all ties in together, right? Remember I was saying revenue. So let's say you're making 1,000, but let's say you want to make 2,000, right? And let's say that with 2,000, you're going to need. Let's say you're doing 10 jobs, right? And at $200 cost. So you want 10 clients on your weekly your calendar for the week. You want 10 clients on your calendar for the week at $200 a piece, right? So you know that, okay, I need 10 clients, right? I need 10 clients. So we know that $500 is going to get us 25 leads, but $500 will get us 10 bookings, right? So we're good to go at that point. So I know $500 is what I need. But let's say I wanted 20 bookings, right? Let's say I wanted to go up, right? Let's say I wanted maybe 4,000, right? 4,000 in revenue. So I knew I needed to double my the amount of book jobs, right? So let's say instead of 2,000, I wanted 4,000, right? So I'm probably, if I'm gonna want 4,000 with the $200 4,000 with the $200 job value, I'm probably going to need 20 clients. So if I'm going to need 20 clients, I know that $500 gets me 10 book jobs. So I'm probably going to have to double my ad spend in order to get 20 book jobs at $200 a cost to then, reach the goal of $4,000 in revenue for that week. So they all play hand in hand, and hopefully, I know it's a lot, so I know I try to slow it down so I'm not making it sound too complex, but they all play with each other, right? They all play off of each other. So if I know I need 40 jobs, that means I'm going to need to spend $1,000 in ads, because I know 500 gets me 10 books, so I need 20 books, so I'm going to need to double this. And so with that being said, once I know I do $4,000 in revenue, okay, let's say I'm at a 50% gross profit. So at that point, I know that I'm making net profit $2,000 per week, which means by the end of the month, I should have $8,000 net profit that I can pay myself, pay my employees. You can do different things with. So I just wanted to kind of talk about that. I know it is, and this is why I said, like, the one-on-one consultations are free. Book them. If you don't understand this stuff, just book a consultation and say, hey, look, I heard you talking about the concept. I'm still trying to get it. Hey, do you have, I'm on this consultation. I just want to learn more about it so I can understand the industry better. Book a one-on-one consultation so you can kind of understand this thing. But this stuff here is important. If you want to run a successful remote cleaning business, or honestly, if you want to run a successful business in general, every business is tracking revenue, tracking their gross and their net profit, tracking how much money they're spending on marketing, what are they getting back per acquired client. So I think this is very important. It's very important stuff that you should know. But once again, thank you for being here. Like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell notification. Don't forget, in the details of the video, you can book a one-on-one consultation. I'll be there to help you. Join our free community as well, because you can ask some of these questions in the community, and we will see you in the next video. Peace.